Welcome to another edition of the Commissioner's Report. Joining me today is Commissioner John Hall. Thank you so much for being here.
It's always my pleasure.
Now, you have served the Polk County Board of County Commissioners for 2 terms. That's 8 years.
Yes.
And first of all, thank you for your service.
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
Also, I'd like to, if you wouldn't mind, to sort of look at your time on the board and discuss some of the topics that are near and dear to you and some of the really good things that have come out of that time, if that's okay.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
I would love to do that.
So let's start with transportation.
Well, transportation is a big issue. A lot of people, wherever we go as commissioners, are always asking about transportation projects, how crowded our roads are, and what are we doing to get rid of that crowding. And I always tell them that we have a major unfunded list because there's always more asked than there is money to fill those asks. But this year, we have about $430 million of transportation projects that have been approved. So just to name a few of those, we have West Pipkin Road in Lakeland, South Lakeland. That's going from 2-lane to 4-lane from Medela Road to Hardin Boulevard, and then 3-lane from Hardin Boulevard to South Florida Avenue. So that's going to be a big boost in moving people around in South Lakeland because of all of the growth that has been south of Lakeland Linder Airport. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's huge. We have the 4-laning of 557 out of Lake Alfred. That is going to be a alternate corridor to 27, and 27, if you've been on it lately, is packed. And there's a corridor study, a 27 corridor study that's ongoing right now with the state, and they are going to finish that, I think, sometime next year. It's a 3-year project. But during the interim, we need to do something that's going to help alleviate some of that overcrowding on 27. So we have that 557 4-laning. Now, it won't be completed by next year, but it's underway. So we're buying the right-of-way, we're doing some of the engineering studies and all of that so that we can go from Lake Alfred all the way to I-4. So that's a good thing. The Lake Wilson Road, Lake Wilson up in the northeast, our northeast section of the county has been just exploding with people. And in the next few years, they anticipate that having a growth rate that will exceed the number of people in the city of Lakeland. Wow. So we're going to actually have what's there plus another city the size of Lakeland. So I think that the Lake Wilson project, that's a 4-laning project also, and that's moving people around so that they can get on I-4. The whole gist of transportation is moving goods and services and people to jobs. The better that we can move people to the I-4 corridor, the more job opportunities that we open up to the east and west of us in Orlando and Tampa. So those are big issues. Poinciana has been exploding. There's been people moving into Poinciana for quite some time now. So we have the Cypress Parkway. We've got an improvement going in there, and we've got Marigold Avenue in Poinciana itself. And that is going to greatly enhance the people in Poinciana being able, and Solavita, which is a part of Poinciana, being able to move around and get to shopping and get to jobs. So it's really big. I can't overstate it. We've got some smaller projects that are drainage or intersection or signalization, and all of those are intended to enhance how we get around in Polk County. So it's transportation is big. Now, what do we have as far as funding sources? You know, how do we fund those jobs? The not necessarily the jobs, but the transportation to get to the jobs. And that's through gas taxes. There's a portion of your property tax that goes to transportation projects. So it's big, and it's all money driven, it's all tax driven. So I think that given the amount of money that we currently have, it's huge in what we have decided to do, because we had a $1 billion backlog of needs. Since the board has agreed to move forward with the $430 million, we still have over $600 million in transportation projects are needed to be able to get people in and around. We've got our Central Polk Parkway. The first two phases of Central Polk Parkway have been approved, and the partial funding, but it is going to be done by the Florida State Expressway Authority, and it's going to tie into that's the South Lakeland, what we call our toll road. It's going to tie in right around mile marker 14 and go south to Highway 60. So it's going to be huge as far as getting some of the semi-traffic out of Bartow. So the state has taken a look at four-laning the 1792 corridor through Polk County to from Haines City to Kissimmee, and we've been talking with them about that. And then the last big project that I'll talk about in transportation is we have to the east of us what is called the I-4 Ultimate. That's under construction right now. That is a toll road. It's going to be a limited access toll, so that some of the traffic that actually just wants to go all the way through Orlando is not slowed down by the traffic that wants to get to some of the amusement parks or wants to go into Orlando proper. So that is underway right now. And to the west of us, we have I-4 Express. So that's coming into Polk County. The I-4 Ultimate is coming into Polk County, and now we have to work with the federal government because I-4 is a federal highway and it's federal transportation dollars, but to see if we can link those two through Polk County. That's going to be big. As far as not necessarily roadway projects, but it ties in with transportation, is transit services. It is our bus system in the county, and a few years ago we took an opportunity to combine the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, which is more commonly referred to as Citrus Connection, and Polk County Transit Services. And now we have more of a countywide transit service, and it's all being done through one organization. The county actually contracts with Citrus Connection because they have the experts in transit services. I was just at a groundbreaking, not a groundbreaking, but I guess a parking place breaking, ribbon cutting last weekend or last week at the Posner Center, Posner Park, and we've opened up 3 new routes, and one of those routes, the 19X, is going to connect the people in Polk County, if they can get to that park and ride location and get on a bus, then it's going to take them over into Osceola County at Point Siena to the Sunrail station over there. That opens up jobs because now we have transit services for those who are transportation disadvantaged. I mean, they do not have vehicles of their own, but they can catch a bus. They can make it to the Sunrail station and get into the Orlando and Sanford areas for jobs there. Ultimately, the end of that is going to be Brightline, and that is the high-speed rail that is already running in the South Florida area. It's proposed to make it to the Orlando Airport. There's going to be a stop at the Orlando Airport, and Sunrail at their Magnolia station, Brightline is going to make it all the way over to the Magnolia station. So if you had a need to travel to the South Florida area and you can get on a bus in Polk County and Lakeland and make it to Posner Park and a connecting bus to take you to Sunrail to the Magnolia station, then you can get on Brightline and go to South Florida. You don't have to own an automobile at this point to start getting around in the state.
What I loved about this project was the fact that it was a no that became a yes. Because additionally, there was supposed to be a Sunrail station in Polk County, and that didn't work. And the board and the Transportation Planning Organization weren't willing to accept that no. So you started trying to figure out, okay, if we can't do that, what can we do?
You're absolutely correct. What can we do? Let's take advantage of those things that we can do legally with the transit services, with our bus system. How can we make that tie-in to Sunrail, and then eventually, after the track and everything is completed all the way from South Florida to Orlando, how can we tie in to Brightline? Mm-hmm. And it's phenomenal, the things that are happening in transit services and in transportation in Polk County and around Polk County that'll move us pretty much anywhere we want to go in the state.
Now, if you don't mind me going back for a moment, one of the things you mentioned about paying for transportation projects mm-hmm. was taxes, mm-hmm. which is a hot button for some people. But it's describe, if you would, the process you went through as a commissioner. You knew the needs, mm-hmm. but you were very mindful of the fact that you don't really want to continue to tax and tax and tax. So how do you reach that balance?
Well, we actually, as Polk County Transit Services, when we had a transit services that we managed, we were the recipient of federal dollars to run that transit services. And when we decided that it would be better for one organization to run transit services countywide instead of having two different organizations run transit services, one on the east side and one on the west side of the county. And we started talking to the executive director for Citrus Connection. It became apparent that it could be done. And it could be done without additional taxes. It could be done with the money that we already put into transit services, into a bus system, and let them become the recipients of the federal grant dollars. So instead of grant dollars coming to Polk County to run what I would call a portion or a piece of a transit services for the county, we turn that over to Citrus Connection. They run it countywide. They are the recipients of the grant dollars. We put in money that every year we had a transit services anyway, but now we just give those dollars to Citrus Connection. And when I say give, there is oversight. So we actually have to see how they're spent, where they're spent, and make sure that it's being done correctly. But we were able to do all of that, enhance the service without an increase in taxes. So are we about where we can get to without additional funds? Yeah, I think so, unless the federal government steps up and says, okay, we're going to have additional funds available to you. But without additional taxes for our citizens, then we're about where we can be. We're enhancing those services as we can. And I also, as well as being on the Board of County Commissioners, I was a director on the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. So I got to discuss those issues from both sides, from Lakeland Area Mass Transit and Polk County Transit Services and the Polk County Commission. So that's been really good.
So just in general, as a commissioner, it's not about creating more taxes. It's about being good stewards of the taxes you have.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think it was 2 years ago, in 2018, the board voted to increase taxes. I voted against that. And I had very specific reasons then that I voted against it. But some of those reasons, and one of the main reasons, is Polk County has a very large graying population, one of which I am. So, you know, they have limited funds as they roll out of the workforce, and they have to depend upon retirement systems or Social Security. They have limited funds. So we want to hold our taxes as low as we possibly can. So I was not in favor of raising those taxes. Now, this year, in our discussion about funding and our budget and finance discussion back in February of this year, we determined as a board that we could cut taxes, and now we have done that. It's already been voted on. We've cut ad valorem taxes, property taxes, 0.2575 mils. So people will be able to see a small reduction. Obviously, it's not as big as we would have liked, but to be able to run all of the programs in the county, we were able to cut some taxes and still have all of those programs available.
Now, one of the issues that you felt very strongly about was increasing public safety funding. How did that happen?
Well, I've been here for quite some time, just not the 8 years as a commissioner, but prior to that on the employee side. And every time that the Board of County Commissioners sent out a survey to the citizens of the county, public safety was their number one, I guess, survey requirement or request. Polk County Sheriff's Office, our EMS, our fire services, they wanted to make sure that if they call 911, that they would get a response no matter what they needed, whether it was medical or whether it was law enforcement or whether there was a fire. So recognizing that, yes, public safety has been one of the top items on my list from the very beginning of the time that I started on the Board of County Commissioners. And we have been able to do that now with some enhanced fire stations. We're actually consolidating fire stations and going from, I think it's 27 down to 19, but they're more appropriately placed. They are larger. They hold more apparatus. Some of those people that are going to be displaced from those stations that we are shutting down are just going to be transferred, and the apparatus is going to be transferred to the new station. So it enhances our response time countywide. And yes, it is the major number one issue with the citizens of Polk County, and mine also. So
another one of the important issues to be raised in Polk County over the last 8 years was water. Do we have enough?
Well, water is a really big issue. We've already talked about the explosive growth that we're seeing up in the Northeast, and we're seeing that pretty much countywide. Maybe not as fast as the Northeast, but it made everyone realize that we needed to have something where all of the municipalities, the county, the water management district, we collaborate on how much water we take out of the ground, because you can only take so much out of the upper Florida aquifer. So we started the Polk Regional Water Cooperative, and that is every municipality in the county, plus the county, plus SWFMUD, or Southwest Florida Water Management District, have joined forces, and we have said, okay, this is so important that everyone has to work on it together. In doing that, we have been able to get a commitment from the Southwest Florida Water Management District for about $160 million to look for alternative water supplies over the next few years. We have drilled lower Florida and aquifer wells in the southeast. We have done, we've got the water, we've tested it, and it can be used. It's a little more aggressive, and so it's a little more of a process to clean it up and get it where it's drinkable, but it is. What that does for us, though, is it lets the upper Florida aquifer have a little bit of a respite or a rest and start recharging. And that's going to be huge over the next few years as more people move in here. I mean, I've been here all my life, and as people move in, they want to make sure that they have fresh water, but also businesses, as they move in, they want to make sure they have fresh water. But those of us who have been here forever and have raised our children and our grandchildren, we want to make sure that we have water also, not just for those that are newly moving in, but for those that have been here through generations. Mm-hmm. So it's been important to have this Polk Regional Water Cooperative where everyone sits down in the same room, and although we may not agree, it's not acrimonious. It is, we agree to disagree, but move forward with the progress on water issues in Polk County. And fortunately and unfortunately, our agricultural operation in the county is starting to decrease because of greening on our citrus trees. That leaves some water available for people as they start to move into the county. Mm-hmm. So we want to have our agricultural operations here. We want to have the citrus and the cattle. If we can't use those wells for agricultural purposes, though, we want to repurpose them to people as they move in.
Excellent. So, now, in your last year of your second term, COVID-19 sprang up. Talk a little bit about that and how the board had to respond.
Well, it was tough, and it still is tough because until just recently, last week, when the governor opened everything back up, and we went to phase 3 reopening of the state, we had people who were out of work. We had people that were taking a look at were they going to be able to afford their mortgages or their rent or maybe car payments. Fortunately, we got $126 million from the federal government to be used for what we term Polk Cares. And we've been able to get that in the hands of our citizens, about $80 million of it so far, and still working on the rest. So I think that is going to help quite a bit. The big thing is, how do we recover? What do we do for recovery? And creating new jobs. Our economic development group has been really active in attempting to move new businesses into Polk County, attract them, keep them, and we have been a partner with that based on the citizens and the vote that they took on a referendum on, do we give tax breaks to businesses to come here and create jobs? And just one off the top of my head, and we use it occasionally as a example, is Nucor, the steel manufacturing company down in Frostproof. 250 jobs, and the median salary there is going to be about $64,000 a year. Yeah, well above what is already here. So I think that those types of things are going to have to continue. The board is going to have to use every tool in its toolbox to bring new jobs in here, new businesses, and we have continued to do that, and I think it's going to be important that we also continue to do it in the future. So it's just one of those things that, how do we recover? Get everybody back to work. That's it, and I think that we're attempting to do that.
Now, speaking of working, some people might not know that you worked for the county before you became a commissioner. How many years did you work for the county?
Almost 35 years. Almost
no kidding.
35 years. Yeah, I started as a laborer, cutting ditches by hand. through education and experience, moved up, and before I left I was division director over 3 different divisions, facilities management, the building division, and code enforcement.
Wow.
So it was it was a wonderful period of time. I spent 43 years here, and I just can't believe that now it's kind of winding down. As a matter of fact, I was a project manager when I was in facilities manager on this building. I built this building for the county and for the citizens. And it is really nice to be able to walk into it on a daily basis and see how well it's weathered the storm, because most people do not recognize that in November of this year it will be 30 years old.
No, wow.
Yeah, we opened it November 19th of 1990. So 30 years old, it's weathered really well, and I think that's a tribute to a group of people who put their heads together and said, let's build this out of some resilient materials, and we want it to last here for a long time. So it's done really well.
Now, I'm going to call you on something.
Okay.
You said you're winding down. Now, I've known you for at least 4 years. You are not the type of person who winds down. What are you going to do next?
Well, options are open. You know, I will never completely step away from government in Polk County in some form or fashion, whether it's on an employee side, whether it's on an elected position. This is my home, and I want to, as long as possible, make it better for the current population and the population that's going to be coming. So I don't know exactly yet. I think that I know exactly where the next position would hopefully be, but we'll keep that right now.
So you are really still looking for ways to serve Polk County, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
I thought so.
Yes, yes. We've got an application in at a location, and we'll see how that goes. But yes, I don't see myself ever fully being out of some type of role in Polk County government or a government entity that would serve Polk County. So I would like to stay involved there. Yes.
Well, once again, thank you for your service, both as an employee and for 2 terms as a board member. And I, for one, am really looking forward to see what you do next.
Well, thank you. And to everyone out there who has supported me over the years, I would like to just say thank you. It has been my honor and my pleasure. As I stated earlier, it is my home. And I have always endeavored to do several things. And the first of those things is, how do we enhance Polk County? Okay? Every decision that I've made, if you were to walk into my office, you'll see a copy of the Constitution of the United States on a little credenza area behind my desk. And every decision that I've made, I've tried to use that as the measuring stick on those decisions. Is it pursuant to the Constitution of the U.S. and the Constitution of the state of Florida? And if it was, and it was the right thing to do, then I would vote yes. And if it wasn't, then I would vote no. So we've been on the winning side and the losing side of some of those, but it's been my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to serve the citizens of the Polk County, and we'll continue to do it in some form or fashion.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for joining us for another edition of the Commissioner's Report.